All right, listeners, get ready for a deep dive today. We're heading to Cambodia, the Baphuon Temple at Angkor. You guys have sent in some incredible stuff about it. Articles, documentaries, the whole shebang. I'm kind of getting Indiana Jones vibes already.
Yeah, the Baphuon, it's a bit overshadowed, by its neighbor, Angkor Wat. But that's what makes this deep dive, well, a deep dive. We're going where the regular tourists don't, unearthing stories from under the jumble.
Exactly. I bet our listeners right now are like sipping their coffee, ready to be whisked away.
Yeah.
So paint the picture. Angkor itself, it's
the Angkor Archaeological Park, UNESCO World Heritage Site, Cambodia. Okay, imagine a place 4 times the size of Paris. Over 100 temples dating back to the 9th to 15th centuries. The Baphuon, it's just one piece of this puzzle. Built by the Khmer civilization, they ruled over, most of Southeast Asia for centuries.
okay, 4 times Paris. My mind is blown. So where's the Baphuon in all this?
So the Baphuon, it's inside Angkor Thom, the royal city, north of Angkor Wat, and it's a sight to behold. I mean, picture this. A temple mountain, 3 tiers dedicated to Shiva. At the base, 120 meters by 100 meters. Originally, it was 50 meters high, like a 16-story building.
16-story building, made of stone, 11th century. Okay, Indiana Jones vibes are getting stronger. How did they even engineer that?
Yeah, the scale is just, wow. Testament to the Khmer architects, the manpower, the logistics, no modern machines. We'll get into that, how they did it.
I'm hooked. But first, location. Within Angkor Thom, our listener sent in this Hello Angkor guide. It shows the Baphuon right by the royal palace. So why there? What's the significance?
Okay, so location's key. The Baphuon, it's on this Victory Way, straight from the palace to the Victory Gates, on a rise, prominent in the city. Now, Angkor Thom, they designed it like a mini-universe. Baphuon Temple, that's Mount Meru at the center. Baphuon, with its height, it was probably meant to, complement that. A sacred mountain for Shiva.
So it's not just the temple itself, it's where it fits, its connection to, the whole Khmer universe.
Exactly. Every detail, the direction it faces, what's around it, it all meant something.
I love these deep dives. You start with one thing, and bam, it's a web of ideas. Okay, so massive temple, cosmic placement, but its history. The Baphuon. It wasn't always just Hindu, for Shiva. Right.
You got it. The Baphuon, its story takes a turn. Late 13th century, Jayavarman VII, the Khmer Empire goes Theravada Buddhist. Big changes for the Baphuon.
Big how? Just swap the statues.
Nope. They added a reclining Buddha, 9 meters long on the west side, 30 feet of Buddha. Imagine that change. Shiva's monument becomes Buddhist worship space.
That's a makeover, but how? To add that much to something already huge, did that cause problems?
Probably. You see, that reclining Buddha, it may have kind of tipped the scales. The Baphuon, it's on land filled with sand, all those sandstone blocks, plus the Buddha, huge pressure on the foundations. Could have led to the tower collapsing.
Too much of a good thing. Speaking of collapse, I know it fell into ruin. Why? Time or something else. So this temple, prime location, cosmic vibes, then it goes Buddhist. It's like the Baphuon had multiple lives, but then almost collapses. Was it just the Buddha or?
Yeah, that reclining Buddha, it might have been the last straw, but the decline, it was probably slower. Think centuries of weather, the jungle growing like crazy, maybe earthquakes. By the 1900s, it was in bad shape. Huge parts collapsed. 300,000 sandstone blocks just jumbled.
300,000? That's not a puzzle. That's like someone tipped over a giant Lego set. How do you even start restoring that?
That's where it gets really interesting. Mid-20th century, these French archaeologists, they decide to tackle it. They used anastylosis, basically. Take the whole thing apart, label each block, fix the base, then rebuild piece by piece. Giant 3D jigsaw puzzle.
Anastylosis. Sounds intense, like surgery on a building. I'm picturing them sorting through all those stones.
It was massive. Patience, precision, you need it. They studied old photos, drawings, any records they could find to figure out the original design. And then, to make it harder, the Cambodian Civil War starts in 1970. They had to leave everything. And during the war, those labeled blocks got scattered. Oh, and the plans for the rebuild. Lost.
No way. So 300,000 pieces, no instructions, must have been heartbreaking for them.
Huge setback. But luckily, a new team came in 1996. It took them another 16 years, but they put it back together. Using those old photos, computer models, a lot of detective work.
16 years. Wow, that's dedication. Listeners are probably amazed right now, the sheer scale of it.
Yeah, one of the best restorations ever, honestly. Shows the human spirit, wanting to save these monuments.
Okay, so we've got location, religion changes, collapse, comeback. I'm starting to get why this temple is important. It's not just the building. It's about resilience, human cleverness, all that. But Changing gears a bit, our listener sent stuff about how they built it, and honestly, some of it seems impossible. I mean, this is centuries ago, no cranes, bulldozers. So how did they build something so huge?
Yeah, that's the question, right? Fascinated people for ages. We don't know everything, but we have learned some amazing stuff about how the Khmer built.
Okay, spill the beans. Ancient alien tech.
Huh. If only. No, the Khmer were great at using what they had, their environment. One key thing, laterite. A reddish rock, lots of iron in it, tons of it in the area.
Laterite, okay. What's so special?
It's easy to work with when it's fresh. So they use laterite for the foundations, let it harden, then you got a solid base. For the fancy stuff, carvings, all that, they use sandstone, also plentiful nearby.
So laterite, the workhorse. Sandstone, the artist.
Exactly. But here's the mind blower. Even with those materials, how did they move those huge blocks, some weigh tons, no modern equipment?
That's what gets me. I can't picture it, just ropes and logs for a 16-story temple.
It took huge organization, tons of people. Remember those holes we talked about used to label the blocks? Well, they think those holes, originally they were for wooden pegs, like handles, levers. Teams of workers can move the blocks that way.
Prehistoric Tetris with supersized pieces.
Yep. And for lifting, probably ramps and rollers. Think massive ramps, earth and wood, sloping upwards, drag the blocks up. And logs as rollers, less fiction.
Okay, I can almost see it. Thousands of people hauling those blocks inch by inch, teamwork. But how'd they get everything to fit so precisely? I read about rubbing stones together.
You got it. Abrasion, you rub the stones against each other, abrasive sand between them, wears down the bumps, makes a perfect fit. Like sanding wood, but way bigger, harder.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I guess you want a temple to last forever, no cutting corners.
Right, and they went even further. Metal clamps to make the structure strong, especially corners, joints where the most stress is.
The iron clamps, the ones that archaeologist Stephanie Leroy studied, still don't know where the iron came from.
Those are the ones, another Baphuon mystery. Khmer, they were good with metal, but where that iron came from. Puzzle.
So they moved those blocks.
Yeah.
Andy, they had the tech to make iron clamps. Amazing. Makes you wonder what else is hidden there.
That's archaeology. Always more to learn. But beyond the building itself, we can't forget what it meant to them. It wasn't just random stones. It showed their beliefs, the universe, all that.
Another mind trip. I'm ready. What did the Baphuon represent?
Think bigger picture, Angkorian architecture. Angkor Wat, those 5 towers, super famous, right? They're Mount Meru.
Mount Meru, remind me.
In Hinduism, Mount Meru, it's where the gods live, center of everything, 5 peaks, ocean around it. Angkor Wat, with its towers and moat, it was like a model of that. Heaven on earth.
Oh, Angkor Wat, meaning Mount Meru, connecting to the divine. But the Baphuon.
It's not as fancy, but it has that cosmic design, too. 3 enclosures, like the mountain ranges around Meru. The original tower, it's gone now, but it probably symbolized the peak.
So Baphuon, also a mini Meru, but for Shiva, they made this whole sacred landscape reflecting their beliefs.
Exactly, and that cosmic link, even stronger with mandala.
Manchu, those meditation circles?
Oh, yep. In Hinduism, Buddhism, mandalas, they're the whole universe. Visual aid for meditation, but also in architecture.
Baphuon has mandalas. Where?
They think the layout where the main shrine is, the enclosures around it, it's based on a mandala. Sacred space, in tune with the cosmos.
Not just building a temple, creating a little universe. Deep stuff.
Gets deeper. Another theory about the king who had it built, Suryavarman II.
Royal mystery. Tell me more.
Remember that cavity at Angkor Wat's base? Probably for offerings.
Yeah. What about it?
Something Angkor Wat wasn't just a temple. It was a giant tomb. For Suryavarman II. Ashes in that cavity, maybe?
Temple and tomb. Wow. But how's that connect to the Baphuon?
Baphuon, for Shiva, built earlier, it might have had a funerary purpose, too.
So not just a temple, maybe a king's resting place. Link between worlds.
Exactly. That's what's so cool about the Baphuon. Layers of meaning. Khmer architecture, their beliefs, the mysteries we still have.
Amazing. We started with Baphuon's spot in the city. Now we're talking tombs. Symbolism. But, gotta zoom out again, the listener sends stuff about Angkor the city and tech that's revealing its secrets.
Right. We've been on Baphuon, but it was part of something much bigger. And with new tech, we're seeing how big, how advanced Angkor really was.
Tell me more. I can feel the listeners leaning in. Time to explore the city. All right, so we've covered the Baphuon inside and out, even those royal tomb theories. But time to zoom out, big picture. You said Angkor the city was way bigger than we think. How are we figuring that out?
For ages, yeah, the jungle hid a lot. But now archaeologists are using LiDAR. It's changed everything.
LiDAR, that's light detection and ranging, right? I know it makes 3D maps, but how does it actually work?
It's really cool. Basically, lasers to measure distances, like radar, but with light. So on a plane, it scans huge areas, shoots out these laser pulses right through the trees. And by timing how long it takes those pulses to bounce back, you get a super detailed 3D map. Even stuff underground shows up.
Archaeology X-ray vision. What's it shown us about Angkor?
It was a game changer. Angkor was huge, way more spread out than we thought. Roads, canals, reservoirs, and tons of these residential mounds, all connected, planned out.
Hold on, residential mounds, what are we talking about?
So these mounds, some are big. They were the bases for houses, wooden houses. The Khmer built on platforms, to avoid the floods in the monsoon season. Wood's gone, but the mounds show where people lived, shows how densely populated it was. Much more complex than we knew.
So not just temples, palaces, a real city, houses, markets, neighborhoods.
Exactly. And the scale is just wow. From the LiDAR, they think maybe 800,000 people lived there at its peak. Could have been the biggest city in the world back in the 12th century.
800,000. That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, London back then, maybe 18,000 people. How do they even support that many? What kind of infrastructure?
Yeah, that's what they're trying to figure out. We see from LiDAR, Angkor had this whole system of canals, reservoirs, super smart to handle the monsoon rains, provide water for farming, everything, and roads connecting the city, going out to other settlements.
Masters of water, city planning.
Yeah.
I guess if you have that many people, got to keep things running.
For sure. And LiDAR is helping us put the pieces together, not just the buildings, but how it all worked, the connections. It's remarkable.
This is amazing. We started with one temple, now we're talking about an entire civilization, from how they built to this huge city revealed by lasers. Quite a journey.
It is. Shows how connected it all is. The Baphuon, what it meant. It was part of this really advanced society. By seeing the bigger picture, we appreciate even more what the King did.
I'm with you. Our listeners are probably feeling the same. Just wow. This deep dive's been eye-opening. Angkor, the Baphuon, it's going to stick with me.
Me too. And the story's not over. Archaeologists are learning more all the time, uncovering new secrets about the Khmer.
Well, on that note, time to wrap up this incredible trip. Thanks so much for sharing your knowledge, taking us on this deep dive. To everyone listening, hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And remember, this is just the start. So much history out there to explore. Each deep dive, we peel back another layer of the past, helps us understand who we are, where we came from.